Oh my god, guys. I actually went ahead and watched Cuties. And if you don't know what Cuties is, you you haven't been looking on like social media or the news at all for a little bit apparently. So, good on you. But we're going to talk about Cuties. If you don't know what it is, look it up. You'll find a million fucking things about it. But we're going to talk about it cuz I watched it and I got some things to say about it. Um yeah. So let's get to it.
Panic, 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 panic.
So first off, with this whole movie, if you know anything about toddlers and tiaras or dance moms, this movie is basically talking about that. The whole dance crew popularity contest type shit. That's what this movie is talking about. And yeah, this movie, the whole point is to make you feel uncomfortable. And yeah, I felt ridiculously uncomfortable watching that movie and watching little girls dance like that. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable so that you actually realize there's an issue here. There's a problem. There's a problem with all of this that's going on. Like this is kind of a toxic thing that little girls probably shouldn't be doing because it influences them in certain ways without them really thinking about it because they're children and they don't understand mature content. Like, guys, that's kind of the problem here that this movie is addressing. All of the toxic reality of our society and how it's been influencing children and making them do what they do sometimes. Like, yeah, it's gonna make you uncomfortable because it should. Because our society is extremely toxic and it needs to be addressed. So, yeah, feel uncomfortable, please. And the second part to this whole movie is basically the contrast between a toxic family life and a toxic peer group life. However, you want to say that. Basically, this is kind of the extreme end of a religious, very religious household, that this is the kind of formula that you're supposed to fit into as being a female within this family, which is presented kind of in a toxic way, it seems like. And then there's the roles that you get accustomed to via your peer group that you associate with, like in school or just outside in general, and how that influences you. And is that peer group actually being influenced by a very toxic element that is being presented within society that is actually pretty easy for a small child to get like access to and not really realize what it is they're looking at, especially when their family just does not want to address it at all. They don't want to even talk about it. Like if you remotely talk about it, they're like, you're evil. You have a demon inside of you," kind of a thing. And they don't even remotely try to talk about it in a healthy way. Like, hey, these ladies that you see dancing in these ways that are like very almost nude in their way of dancing, it's that's probably not the best way to present yourself as an 11-year-old girl in society. Like that conversation is never had within this movie, and that's part of the problem here, is having like a healthy family life where you kind of start to see what it is your child is doing and like the content they're interacting with and the kids they're interacting with, and being like having a healthy conversation of like, all right, you guys, it looks like you guys are getting into some mature content, and thinking that that's just kind of like a fun thing. It's cool, it's whatever, because you don't know what sex is and you don't know like the realities of men in the world, some men at least. And this kind of movie, if you miss it, if you blink, you kind of miss it. Where it is, they show kind of reaction shots of different men in throughout these places in France at least, of when the girls are dancing in their very sexual ways. You get a couple of reaction shots from guys that are kind of like a little too invested in staring at that little girl, and you get a crowd shot and another guy interacting, be like, really, you're, what the hell, dude? That like this movie is calling that out too. And it's kind of recognizing that we have to have that conversation with children about the realities of like what is happening in this world when you start to go down a like more sexualized route of things and knowing what it is you're playing with fire, really, because it's so easy for children to find, like, that's the whole point here. It's so easy for children to find and be influenced by popular culture or mature content. Like, it's music videos. Like, oh man, that new pop star artist, whoever, I love their song, let me watch their video. And then there's a whole bunch of just like twerking and half nakedness going on, and they're all like, oh, that's how the cool people dance. All right, that looks fun, and then it's like, no, because you're humping the ground as an 11-year-old. No, God, no. What the no, please. God, seriously. And the kind of like sucky part of this whole movie is that they don't really offer like a solution at any of it. They're just kind of like at the very end, I'm sorry, spoiler alert. Oh. Basically the little girl goes out and joins a couple of random girls she's never met and just does jump rope and then just jumps really high. Good solution, movie. Good solution. But I mean, that's not the whole point. The point of the movie was to bring forth the issue, and then we're supposed to figure out what the solution is. Because, you know, it's kind of a complicated issue. There's a lot of elements here. Like, do you restrict technology to kids and stuff? It's like, that's not going to fucking happen. Kids know how to operate technology better than you. Like, for real. And so does it come down to a conversation, more healthy conversation from parents to children about like, hey, there's some mature content out there in the world. You should kind of understand what that implies to some people because they're pretty toxic people, because this is a whole toxic thing, and we haven't really gotten over our whole thing of like what a female is, what a male is, and it's like, the male is just like an aggressive, punch you in the face and fuck everything type person, and then the female is just like this, I'm a sexual object, come and fuck me. Like, that's basically what society is presenting to us in like all of our culture, like pop culture at least, where it's like in your movies, in your shows, in your music videos and things like that. Like, that's like, women are sex objects and men are violent motherfuckers, and that's basically it. Welcome to society. Like, that's kind of the thing we got to figure out the solution for. And what's that solution? Good question. Maybe we could take some advice from, you know, indigenous cultures, and I mean, maybe nudist colonies. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into them, but yeah, we're gonna go back to indigenous cultures, kind of focus on that, because the majority, like, at least half of indigenous cultures walk around pretty much fucking naked all the time. Like, the adults are naked and the children are naked, and pretty sure they don't have rape culture or over-sexualization of children, or they don't have issues with that. But everybody's naked and everyone's walking around like, oh, hey, what's up? Oh, okay, whatever. Like, no one cares that they're naked all the time. But us here in like Western society and stuff is like, the second you're naked, that means it's sex time. Like, if anything is naked, that means sex. Like, that's the problem. Like, that's why everyone's like, oh my god, they were wearing a tiny thing and stuff. Like, I mean, the more skin that's shown, typically people are like, well, that means sex. And like, we're back in Victorian culture or some shit. Like, you lift your shirt up a little bit and reveal your belly button, and suddenly everyone wants to have sex with you. Like, what happened? Where's the disconnect here? Let's kind of look at the contrast between Western society and like indigenous society and see what's going on there. Why is there the issue of rape and sexualized children within Western culture, but then indigenous culture, everybody's fucking naked and they don't have those issues? Like, well, what's going on here? What are the belief differences and what is promoted, kind of a thing? Like, I mean, obviously, like within the movie, how they were presenting a religious household where it was, you are very much this is your female, this is your role, and you can't budge out of that or else we're gonna shun you and say you're a demon, kind of a thing. Like no, let's not do that, because that's the antithesis extreme to our like Western society thing. And extremes are not a good thing. I mean, that's the whole thing here, is do not do the extremes. There's a middle ground, though. Like, yes, you can freely express and dance around, that's fine and whatnot, and you can be whatever it is you want to be in your gender role, however you want to define that. Like, you are free to do those things. However, if you go to these extremes, you're gonna run into a lot of issues then. Like, it's kind of scary. Just don't do the extremes. And so I would say here, for kind of a way forward after watching Cuties and stuff, and also you have to think of Cuties as almost like a documentary of sorts, where it is like an inconvenient truth, or like the true cost and stuff like that, or 13th and things like it's bringing to light horrible issues that are going on in our reality, and it's your choice. Like, do you do something to actually change that stuff that's going on? Like in the true cost, do you buy better clothing that doesn't support essentially slave labor? In the 13th, do you like support incrimination of black people at an indiscriminate cost? Like, or an inconvenient truth, like what do you want to do about climate change and things like that? Like, this is, and that's what Cuties is doing. They're like, hey, here's this huge issue going on, what do we want to do about it? And they're like doing it at a full shock value, because that's how you remember shit. Like, a very shocking experience, you tie an emotion to that and you remember that. There's a memory there now, and you like don't really forget that too well. So, you know, shock value has a point. That's why Cuties is kind of this pretty big extreme of over-sexualized culture and how it influences children, because it's like, you need to remember that. You can't just let Toddlers and Tiaras and Dance Moms continue on and not actually like address that. Like, why are these reality shows going on, but we're not doing anything about it? Like, oh, those are just crazy moms, and like, ugh, God, why do they do that to their kids? That's weird. And it's like, no one is doing that. Like, they took Cuties, this movie, to like bring that to the forefront, because everybody else was like, that's just those crazy moms out there doing that. And it's like, no, there's a broader influence going on with kids and like how they present themselves to the world, because they don't know any better. Like, because no one talks to them about it. No one talks to them about these extremes that they're presenting to the world, and that there are extremes out in that world that want to take advantage of you. Like, we got to have that conversation at the very least. At the very least. Very least. Please do that. Please just talk with your kids about over-sexualization and violence and stuff. Like, that definitely, like, the only answer to your problems is punching people in the face. Like, no, don't do that. Don't do that, please. God. And then the last thing here is, basically, this movie is also talking about the whole family unit, the community unit of what are those influences? Who are the people there that the children are interacting with, in order to like have a sense of like where they can go in life and what is actually like a healthy way to go in life. Like, a majority of this is, there weren't really parents around majority of the time in this movie. It was like there's just kids fumbling around with technology and then being like influenced by pop culture, because that's like the popular thing that's going on. It's like, oh, hey, let's do that. And there was no like actual communication from the community or family to really like reflect on like, is that actually a good way to go? And is there a different kind of happy medium here? Like, there's none of that. And that's part of the problem with our own society, is that parents are overworked so much, and then everyone within the community is like, no, I forge for myself, I take care of myself, and that's it. Screw all of you. Like, that's the other like toxic thing going on within society, is like, there is no family, there is no community to turn to, there is only the television, there is only the internet, and that is it. Like, that's, we need to get past that part. We have to rebuild community, and we have to rebuild our relations with our family, and then like have the family be open to other experiences outside of the like heavy religious beliefs or whatever beliefs that family has. Like, that was the other thing here with the whole Muslim family, was a very religious family that did not want you to sway from what it is that they believe a female should be within their family unit. I mean, of course, this is said for all religions. Like, I mean, this is it was just Muslim was in the movie. Like every religion kind of has that kind of, if you're a female, you're this. If you're a man, you're this. And we kind of gotta move a little past that. And there's a little wiggle room there, because guess what? Everybody has a balance of masculine and feminine within them. Yes, everybody. Everybody does that. Because, I mean, the masculine side, it's more of outwardly building and defending. That's kind of like the man element. And then the feminine element is more inward looking and self-care and nurturing, but then also like turning that to the people around you. Like that is kind of the extreme end of the feminine element. And everyone has both of those. And what is your balance? Or are you just completely ignoring one? Like, we've got to figure out that balance too. Like, that's the whole thing here. Like, you're only presented with extremes. You're either a sexy female or a super aggressive dude that fucks everything. And like, that's it. That's all you are. Figure it out. Like, no, like there's a medium with all of us. Like, everybody has the masculine and the feminine side. How do you want to present that? How do you want to balance that? We've all got to figure that out. And that's kind of the main problem, like, that we're having with society, is that there is no balance, and we're destroying any kind of close relations so that we overly rely on pop culture to tell us what's good and what's cool and all that stuff. Like, no, pop culture is a shit toilet. Just a shit toilet. Like, it's a toilet that is made of shit and you can't shit in it anymore because there's too much shit. Like, that's all that pop culture is. Really visualize that in your head. It's a shit toilet full of shit, and you keep trying to shit in it, but you can't, so it's overflowing everywhere, and it's taking over, but no one's really doing anything about it. They're just like, oh, there's shit everywhere on the floor. I guess I'll put boots on. But yeah, okay. I think I'm gonna... That was a rant. Sorry? No, I'm not sorry. Take these talking points with you, reflect on things, see what you can come up with, and, you know, take action in life. That's all. If you like it, like it. If you want to get more, subscribe, whatever. Whatever the hell you want to do. We'll talk. Leave some stuff in the comments. Be like, oh, you're an idiot. And I'll be like, you might be right. We'll talk about that. How about that? Okay. Until next time. Don't panic. Be a hippie.